Hey guys, I'm going to be making another talent guide, this time for mages. You might have seen my talent guide on knights. Talents are of course located in the skills window in the talent section. This is of course for the knight, so go check out that guide if you're a knight or if you're interested in knights. As for the mages, I had a friend of mine who sent me the mage talents. Also did a bit of research and talking to different mages to find out what the thing is. So let's go into that. This is the window for the mage talents. So let's look at them one by one. We got momentum. It shortens meteoric destroyer cooldown by 3 seconds and has a chance of restoring 1% of maximum hit points. That's not entirely too bad, but the problem is that you will maybe cast the meteor, that the cooldown is not a big deal, and people say that the 1% is not, this 1% is not such a huge amount either. So of course by itself it's a nice one, but you maybe have, and I will say also the conclusions or recommendations afterwards. You have better choices than to get the momentum, so we're gonna close this one. We got then a barrier. Damage received decreases by 5% here. Actually that's pretty solid. It's not a massive amount, but it's a pretty solid amount. Equivalent you have here, for example, in the astrals you have here Goddess Blessing, which reduces damage. So here I have my astral at level 4. It reduces damage by 12%, so another 5% on top is actually not that bad. So going back to this, actually as far as I know, the vast majority of mages have taken this, so this is definitely a solid choice to take. So 1 point minimum is gonna go into this one, is the recommendation. Then we got Awaken. So Awaken has a rain of fire giving a chance of 5% of decreasing the rage consumption of, so when you cast the rain of fire you have 5% chance of decreasing rage of the Delphic Thunder Frenzy by 50%. Of course that's 100 rage skill. The problem here is this is an interesting skill to have, and some of the mages have taken it. The interesting thing is, of course, this gives you the opportunity to cast a Delphic Thunder Frenzy at 50 rage, I believe, and that's pretty nice because 50 you could have. But the Rain of Fire doesn't get cast so much. I mean, comparatively speaking, you do maybe a Lightning, a Rain of Fire, but then mages switch to Meteor or a Healing. So actually the frequency that you cast Rain of Fire is not so often, and from that, from those times, only 5% chance of happening is even less. And also not so many mages have Delphic Thunder Frenzy on their skills bar, so the quick cast bar right here. So if you don't have that, then it wouldn't be something useful. So this is an interesting one, but not a fundamental one, so I'm gonna put like a question mark here. So we'll look at that a little bit later. Then we got Survival. Survival is also another interesting one. So it increases the cooldown time for X seconds, and X is 5 seconds. Let me write that down here. So that's 5 seconds. 5 seconds for the first level. And I asked one mage if it was any different for level 2, and he said he didn't see any difference. So probably for level 2 is also 5 seconds, maybe 6 seconds, but not a big deal. So anyways, it increases the cooldown, but cooldown of what? Of restoration specifically. So it's the heal. This is the healing spell. It makes it less often that you can cast it, so the waiting time goes up. But the reason it goes up is because the healing amount goes up by 20%, and actually it's plus 25% for level 2. So I'm gonna put that here also. So that is actually a pretty good one, and a bunch of mages are using this. This is actually making it that you cannot cast the healing spells as often, but when you do cast it, when you need it, it's a lot more healing. So in that sense, it's very useful. So it's gonna be among the recommended ones to invest in. Then we got Misfortune. It shortens damnation cooldown time by 7 seconds and also increases damage. This is only useful for those mages who cast damnation, so it's got a specific focus. And therefore I'm gonna put here a question mark, because it's not useful. It's not useful for everybody. It's only useful for specific mages, and perhaps those mages might choose to go for something else. Then we got Redemptions. It shortens the Blessed Light cooldown by 5 seconds. I've spoken to a bunch of mages. They're not really interested in this. They have a lot more other things to do than to put points in this, so this is gonna go out. Then we got Focus. We got Lightning Bolt. Has 5% chance to decrease rage consumption by 50%, so this is actually not 50%. I'm gonna close this 50 because I checked with one of the mages and they said it is 30%. So I'm gonna put that 30% here. Still, it's good. 30% is still good, and it lasts for 2 rounds, which means you cast your lightning, and then after the lightning, the next 2 spells are at 30% less rage consumptions. So this is a very solid, good skill to talent to have. So it's going to be part of the recommendations. And then you got the Callousness, which shortens the Delphic Hell Thunder cooldown by 10 seconds and has a chance to make a kind of absorption shield, which is interesting. The problem is, of course, that most mages don't use this skill, or if they do, they use it so rare so that this doesn't come into play so much. So at least a bunch of mages high level which I talked to also were not interested in this, so I'm gonna close that. So looking at what we got 3 skills here which are definitely recommended. We've got 2 here which are interesting, and of course not to forget the one in the center. This is the Holy Seal. Of course, the most of the talent points are gonna go into this one. So when you have a choice, you have to always choose to put somewhere else or on the Holy Seal. Of course, the more points you put in the Holy Seal, the less often other people will stun you, and the more damage you will do when you stun somebody, and the more chance you have that your stun will work. So definitely Holy Seal is very important. So don't forget that one. Of course, you cannot forget it. It's the cornerstone. So from what we discussed so far, the first point that you have a chance to, the recommendation is put it into barrier. So the barrier right here is the first one that you want to put your skill point to. And then of course you have choices. So I've heard a lot of good things about Focus, so I would put another skill point there. Of course, the first couple of skill points come quite easily, and you actually cannot put a second skill point until you reach level 15, like you see here in my talents. If you look at this one, it says you need Holy Seal level 15 in order to be able to put the second point into these skills. So that's not talent level 15 like I have 15. It's actually the Holy Seal itself needs to be level 15 before you can put a second point. Coming back to the mage talents here, we have the barrier, which as I said, I recommend from what I have studied, and we have the survival, which increases your healing, and we have the focus, which increases it decreases the rage consumption upon lightning bolt, 5% chance, and 5% is pretty good. You do cast lightning bolt a lot as a mage, so this also happens a lot. So what I would suggest is that the first skill point, the first skill point you put in barrier, as survival and focus, and then you start pumping up the holy seal, and once you get to the level 15 holy seal, then you can already have the second level of barrier, survival, and focus. That would be, let's say, the standard solid build. Now if you do have damnation, consider misfortune here that we talked about. On misfortune, of course, those who use damnation, they can pretty much benefit from it, because that reduces your cooldown and also increases the damage. So if you're doing 5,000 damage, 10% additional, that's 5,500 damage. Every little bit helps. And awaken, as I said, it's interesting, but again, you cannot put points everywhere, because then your holy seal will be very weak. So what you want to do is you have to choose, and I think 3 is really the maximum. So barrier for sure is 1. I think you cannot avoid the barrier. The rest you can, and I think focus is extremely good, because lightning you cast so much that this reduction of rage happens much more. So, and this reduction works on all skills, not only here like in awaken, it only works for one skill. And lightning you cast a lot more than rain of fire. So therefore focus, I would say, is a must, and barrier is a must. And then because you're doing dungeons with friends or whatever, you do need to cast healing, and usually you cast Santoria, you cast Blessed Light, and so the restoration is not that frequent, so it's no problem to have a 5-second penalty or 6-second, whatever. But the 25% increased healing, I feel, is very useful, especially when you have to clear up the catacombs. Also when you're just growing as a mage, it will also become quite useful. So I think if I was making a mage, I would then close down also awaken, because I think focus is a lot better. And between misfortune and other things, I would take the other things. And so that's why I would say we forget this one, we forget this one, we forget this one, and we're only left, I would suggest, with the ones which I'm showing here, the 3. So I'm trying to close them. So the 3, let me get the this thing here just to close them. Forget it. So basically you get the idea. I suggest that so we close those, and we are only left with survival, barrier, and focus, which will give you reduction of damage by 5%. It'll give you less rage consumption. Of course, focus with the less rage consumption comes on top of the bonus that you get from your rings already, and by that bonus I mean, here you see at the bottom, if you have 2 rings of the same level, you have a chance to reduce rage consumption of a skill by 40%. Of course, this doesn't work for additional 2 turns, it only works for additional 1 turn, but nevertheless it's on top of it. So that's why I suggest focus, I suggest survival and barrier, and then you bring the holy seal up to level 15, and once you get this to level 15, then pump up the other 3, and then continue working on the holy seal. So that's what I suggest for the mage talents. And for the knights talents, have a look at the first guide that I made, talents guide for knights, edition 1. So this is gonna be edition 2 for mage talents. So I hope you guys found that useful. If you did, please do click on like and subscribe, it helps a lot. Share with friends on the forum, and that's about it. Thank you very much, have a nice day.